So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Councilman Ken Rothwell, and I am joined by my fellow town board members and the town supervisor as well. And we have decided to reconvene the helicopter noise task force, just over the abundance of concerns, particularly as the summer has arrived here and additional helicopter flights are coming in and out of New York City. But if you don't mind, if we can just start by standing up just to say the pledge, if you don't mind, please. John Cullen, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just going to introduce the members of our helicopter task force who were summons to response to town hall, but I am surrounded by very knowledgeable individuals that have followed this for many, many years. And so we do have John Cullen with us. Other members are Connie Carlin, Ken Dolan, Sid Bale, Elaine McDuffie, and Teresa McCaskey. So thank you all for joining us today. Basically, some people say, what exactly are they going to do, and what is that task force about? So just to kind of give you a little bit of a background, the FAA helicopter flight path rules were set for Riverhead a number of years ago. For civil helicopters operating under visual flight rules along the Long Island's North Shore, including the town of Riverhead here, from July 29, 2022 to today, to coming up July 29, 2026. So it's a 4-year plan that the helicopters have to deviate from traveling over residential areas, and they're traveling currently on for our retrospective, the North Shore flight, and we could put that one graphic right up on the screen so everybody could see. But these are the flights that they're supposed to be routinely following. As agreement that was created through the FAA, and flying between New York City and Orient Point along the shoreline, the route's designated to reduce low-flying noise complaints from residents. Pilots must follow the published North Shore helicopter route and the specified altitude for the segment that they are flying. Deviations are allowed only for safety, weather, and when transitioning to or from a designated landing point. The rule was adopted in 2012 after years of complaints from North Shore residents about helicopter noise from flights to and from the Hamptons. It aims to keep helicopters at a higher, more consistent flight path over the water, reducing overhead areas of residential neighborhoods. The current FAA mandate expires on July 29, 2026. That's primarily why we're here today, because that date is coming up next week. Riverhead residents have reported additional helicopter noises, and still some helicopters are still flying low. And so what we're also going to be asking for from our federal officials is to not only to renew this flight path, but also we are looking for enforcement as well. And so what we had done last time, we had written to our elected officials, and so letters have already been sent out, and I'm going to share them with our committee, but we did send letters out to Congressman Nick LaLota, Senator Charles Schumer, and Senator Kristen Hildebrand. So they're all aware of the situation. They all three have made themselves committed to trying to do everything they can to resolve it. I spoke at length to Senator Gillibrand's office, and they were like, yes, we need to certainly renew the flight path, but they were committed to finding ways for better enforcement as well, because I think that's what happens. It's been 4 years since this plan was initially put into place, and sometimes as you get near that and the lack of enforcement, everybody kind of strays a little bit off path, and I think it's probably more, from what I've heard, it's about a scenic passageway, and it's about visual waypoints. For example, Stony Brook University Hospital seems to rise above everything within its area, and then that next large visual is more than likely a Shore nuclear power plant that rises above and then continues on east. So we're looking to push them to make sure that they stay on that flight plan, which is about a mile offshore water. As you can see, the flight plan that they're supposed to be covering. One of the things I am just going to mention, and then we'll kind of share the floor here, was just that we're focusing on private helicopter uses. So I just want to state outright that the Suffolk County Police Aviation Unit has been phenomenal for all of our residents throughout Suffolk County. We do see a more increased use of those aviation units as more and more EMTs and paramedics are being certified. I personally took the class over a year ago, and the Suffolk County Police Aviation Unit arrives, and you get to kind of climb through that whole helicopter and see everything, how they work. But they have been really pushing that when there's a potential trauma case, the best bet is to get that patient to Stony Brook Universal Hospital, which is our trauma center. And they want us to call them. They want us to call them often. And even if we're uncertain whether or not we can get that patient stable, they want to get in the air. And so often you'll see, many often the Suffolk County Police Aviation Unit is flying low. They're also flying visual. So that's not what we're really talking about today. So we just want to make sure, that we're respectful to them and what they do, and because they are an incredible unit. So noise, it's back. They're flying low. And so, John, I know you have been following this for quite some time, so I'll just kind of yield the floor a little bit if you'd like to share some points.
My name's John Cullen, and I started the Riverhead Aircraft Noise Committee with the help of Teresa McCaskey here, who's from the Southold Committee. It all started when the helicopters were coming over my area. I live in Northville, and that was the crossing point to go to East Hampton Airport since I moved in. And after enough time, I finally started getting into it and going out to East Hampton Town Board meetings and letting them know how bad it was where we live. I'm 22 miles away from the airport in East Hampton, yet back then, every single helicopter would come over my home and go to East Hampton, and then they turn around and come exactly on the way back. We call them round trips. I've been dealing with a corporation called Eastern Region Helicopter Council, who pretty much sets the trails or the path of all these helicopters. And I worked with them a lot, and they said, we're going to try and help you out. We're going to try and help you out. The first couple of years, nothing really happened. And then all of a sudden they said, well, make it better for you. We'll make it one way for you. But I'm still getting crushed even on one way. I would get close to over 100 helicopters a weekend over my home. If the weather's down, they're down. And at 1,500 feet with a double engine helicopter, sometimes your house is shaking. So that got me going a little bit more harder on the town board over in East Hampton. I made many trips out to the East Hampton Town Board. Finally, what happened out in East Hampton was they're having problems with the airport because there's so many complaints, not just from the Riverhead area, but also from the people in Southampton and people closer to the airport. The helicopter business has picked up tremendously since COVID, and even before then. It's private. It's big money in New York City that wants to get out to East Hampton as fast as possible on a Thursday, Friday. Back then it was a Friday. Now it's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get out there. And they had problems, and there was a point where they were thinking of closing the airport. East Hampton was on a 20-year FAA grant, which meant once they couldn't do anything with the airport until that grant ended. East Hampton decided not to keep the grant going, so they stopped taking the money, and there was their chance to do something with the airport and privatize it and make it limit the helicopters that could come in if they were going to do it, or even close the airport completely. Right now, the airport, as they were getting ready to close it, on the day of their closure, the pro aviators came out with a lawsuit on that day, and they kept the airport as was. They had changed the airport numbers. Their symbol used to be KHTO. It's now JPX. So they got it. They were in the ball rolling, and at the last moment, the pro aviators came in with their lawyers, who are bigger than the town lawyers somewhat. And that was unfortunate. But they were trying to save the airport, and what they did was they changed the route to try and help the people that were getting the pain, myself, obviously, and anyone else on the Southampton side. So they called it an all-water route, where the helicopter would come out and fly around Orient Point and then make a hard turn and come back in toward East Hampton Airport. And also they would come down the ocean, and in the beginning they were going in and out of Georgia Capon over East Hampton property, which was amazing because East Hampton Airport is somewhat on the borderline of Southampton, but they kept the noise away from East Hampton residents as much as possible, as they do today. They still do it. And what happened from there on, that they
after a year of doing that, they found a little shortcut. It started with the seaplanes coming out here. And the seaplanes found out that they could fly up through Calverton and bang a left turn and come toward Gobretsky Airport and then bang another left turn and go out to Peconic Bay. And the seaplanes aren't that bad. I now have the seaplanes flying over my house. They've left that route and they've come to my house. Right now, what we're all here for is that the helicopters seem to be using Wading River to get to East Hampton. Now, it's not as bad as it was as far as I'm concerned, because I watched the helicopters on a website called adsb.com. adsbexchange.com. You can also, but it'll get you there, and you can watch these helicopters live on your computer right at home. So the majority right now, believe it or not, the majority of the helicopters are using the South Shore route. The South Shore route was never open when I started this. They always came the North Shore route 100%. They told us for years, Teresa and myself, for years they told us that we can't use the South Shore route because we can't fly by Kennedy Airport. Excuse me. In the meantime, they're flying directly right over LaGuardia Airport, each and every one of those helicopters back then. So they finally opened that up, and it gave a lot of relief to the people on the North Shore. They opened up the other side to go out and around Orient Point, and they held this. The helicopter pilots held it for a couple of years, and a lot of them are still holding to it right now to save East Hampton Airport. They need that money. I mean, this is their livelihood, and their livelihood should be to stay on the correct route, which is to be, if they're coming out on the North Shore, fly around Orient Point. And don't cut through Wading River as they are. And right now, I see that they are coming through Wading River. I see the numbers. It's nothing compared to what I dealt with years ago, but it is irritating because once you get affected by it once, it's more irritating every time another one comes by. I know the feeling. I've been there. What our goal here is today is to try to get them back out on the Orient Run, out and around, away from Wading River. And that shouldn't be, it shouldn't be hard, but it will be hard, unfortunately. It's basically, there's one company that's really harming the Wading River area, and it's called Zip Aviation. They have multiple helicopters that fly out. It's part of the Blade service. If anyone doesn't know what Blade is a new thing in New York City, started about 8 years ago. Pay for your seat, buy your seat, and you get out there. They have multiple departures on a weekend basis, and they want to try and fill up the helicopters because they want to get as much money as they can, every penny they can get out of those guys. So they'll put strangers next to strangers in a helicopter. During the COVID days, you'd get a 12-passenger helicopter with 1 or 2 people in it, husband and wife, and they could afford the whole helicopter. But the helicopter should be packed to the rim if they're going to be coming out here this way. That should be the goal. Number 2, I mean, that's just one of the problems is that why there's so many helicopters coming out, because people want their own helicopters now. The COVID situation obviously is over. People want to get out there. There's more money in New York City. They're willing to pay their $900 for their 40-minute flight out there versus a 3.5-hour ride, or whatever it could be. Anywhere from 3 hours to 5 hours is what it would be for a car, limo, or whatever. But that is where we stand. We're here because I'm here for the Wading River people. Our task force did slow down once the helicopters went off our area that we were aiming for, because the people on the board lived underneath that. And now we have people from Wading River that are under the flight line, and we're here to try and help you as much as we can.
So it's a 2-step process. The first one is to ensure that the FAA renews the flight path, and that is to which expires on the 29th, and again, that forces them to go out over the water. So just because the clock is ticking right now, and again, as I mentioned earlier, I've spoken to all, 3 federal, our 2 state senators, 2 U.S. senators, as well as our congressman, and we're confident we're going to renew that, and then we're promising to work with them about enforcement. So how does the general public get involved? So, we did update the form on our town website, so you can print out that form. It also has a connection to East Hampton Airport as well, is that you can make a direct complaint to East Hampton Airport. Often you can get the number off of the particular helicopter when they're flying at a certain speed, but if anything, if you simply get the date and time, they are able to go to the flight path and pick up exactly who is traveling on that. And then that kind of builds up complaints. And so that's what's ultimately needed from the residents. So everybody says, what can I do to help, is to fill out that form to give us the complaints. You can send them to here to Town Hall right off the website. You can send them to my email. And then we'll just keep logging them in, and we'll keep presenting them, to our federal officials, and to push for enforcement going down, because that's ultimately the way in which you'll change the pattern is when you're hurt in the pocketbook a little bit more, and that's what we need to do. We're all familiar with the trade parade going out into the Hamptons, and as that has gotten increasingly worse over the years, that's why you're seeing an increase in helicopters, because when you have those wealthy individuals that can afford that $800 ticket out through the Hamptons back, and so that's why they're certainly utilizing more of them. It seems to be increased certainly greatly more over the holidays, where we had July 4th weekend and we had the U.S. Open, and so there's been a lot of heavy activity out in the Hamptons. But everyone can help by filling out that complaint form. We log it in, and that helps with enforcement.
If I can add to this, my name is Teresa McCaskey with the South Town Aircraft Noise Committee. I do want to mention that with the help of then Congressman Lee Zeldin and his team, we were able to get the public meetings that were supposed to be held, should have been held in various townships, were limited, and there was one here in Riverhead. We had a huge turnout, and the public spoke. And most of the people that came were Riverhead residents and Southold residents. A few, actually, I believe it was 2 or 3 from even East Hampton, and not many from Southampton, because it was, I believe, it was on a Jewish holiday on a Friday, on a midday.
Cold, windy night.
Yeah, cold, windy night, school night. So we could have even had even more people attend. But I do want to mention that, and I believe when that meeting was held, that was a wake-up call. And then Riverhead Town also, with then Councilwoman Catherine Kent, had a huge meeting as well, that with the representative from the Eastern Region Helicopter Council, which that video is still accessible through your portal. The Eastern Region Helicopter Council, Jeff Smith, was here, along with federal representatives, and they saw how angry and upset and frustrated our residents were. And that was inclusive of the farmers came, teachers came, taxpayers, hardworking individuals came to express their concern. And at that particular meeting, which I want to mention, this is not just about noise. This is about safety also. With where John Cullen lives, he lives near the Northville tanks. And what was happening, the helicopters were transitioning right over the tanks. So if you can only picture what kind of catastrophe that would be, and I still ask the East Hampton Town Board today, with every email I send them, I said, when a helicopter crashes or a seaplane, who's going to be responsible? Who's going to be responsible for that? Tell me how someone's going to get an hazmat team to the Northville location or the nuclear power plant. Yeah, I mean, how is this going to happen? I never get a response. So basically what is happening over the years, it's a whack-a-mole situation. So as John was getting hammered, I was getting hammered, in and out. I was literally standing in my yard, I'd have them to the north of me, I'd have them to the south of me. And then came a seaplane and a seaplane. So yes, there was a shift, and that shift occurred because the aviation industry met with, I would say, the representatives of East Hampton, and they said, okay, we're going to do a voluntary all-water route, and that is in the effort of saving East Hampton Airport. So even the seaplanes, there was an effort to go all the way around. Okay, but that was short-lived. Okay, that was very short-lived, and at this point in time, since East Hampton Airport is no longer going to attempt to be a private airport and are back on the register for being a public airport. The pilots are doing flying under VFR rules, are doing what they pretty much want to do. So as of right now, to my knowledge, there is no designated route for the seaplanes to fly. However, they fly over a repeated flight path, and there's a reason for that, because at that point in time, they know exactly the amount of time they're going to fly. They know exactly the amount of fuel they're going to use. If they're flying at 1,500 feet or 3,000 feet, they know the cost, and their goal is to flip the plane around as soon as possible and get back. And if they do that, they're going to probably get some sort of a bonus at the end of the day. So they will get a bonus. And I know for a fact that Blade was offering a bonus from the customers that were flying with Blade, because it was on their website encouraging their passengers to please tip the pilots along. So, and over the years, I have stated repeatedly that the North Fork is not part of any tour. We're not part of it. We have yet one penny, one dime fall out of the sky when they fly over. So if they want to interrupt people's lives, should be over their own township. And there is a letter that was presented by then Councilwoman Scalera, and that's exactly how she phrased the letter. If you want to basically have the airport, you need to absorb the pain. Okay, and that letter was sent, and it was sent publicly and is available, I'm sure, online as well for viewing. And just going back to the FA North Shore route, the key point everyone needs to understand, it's not illegal for them to cross over the island because of that loophole, which I believe is, I can't remember the exact quote on that, but there was a section there, I believe it's G if I remember, or H, and that basically lets them, again, transition due to once they're able to see the airport and it's the line of sight. So they're not doing anything really wrong. What the Eastern Region Helicopter Council did get many pilots to do is to voluntarily fly all the way out to Orient. And there are some pilots that do that. And they do try to keep the altitudes higher. I will give those pilots the credit. However, as John has mentioned, there are the other pilots that don't care. And one of them is Zippy Aviation, there's a few other companies that have now chosen, by whom I cannot tell you, but Wading River as the transition point. So again, we're playing whack-a-mole here. Do you understand? That's basically what's happening. They moved it because we were all screaming. Jamesport was getting hammered too. So it was Northville cutting through Jamesport, coming down through Laurel, through Mattatuck. So now they shifted it, and they believed that coming through the Calverton Cemetery, which I will quote, was stated by one of the Eastern Region Helicopter Council members, that no one there would file a complaint from the cemetery with regards to the military that have served this country. With that said, so that is what they do now, and as of this summer, they are now following one of the two main roads to get into Southampton. They are flying over Sunrise Highway and banking that way to come into Southampton. And I will again, Southampton is our neighbors. They're getting hammered. They are getting hammered round trip, a lot often from the helicopters, round trip for the seaplanes for sure. So no one's anyone's enemy here. We're all trying to work together to try to get a fair resolution, and the bottom line is East Hampton needs to take on more of the pain. And I will also state that there is on video that the Eastern Region Helicopter Council stated at a work session that they wanted to try to keep the traffic away from East Hampton. So again, this is on the video, it's on a work session, they just need to absorb more of the pain. That if they want to accept this much traffic, they need to absorb more of the pain. So I cannot explain to you why the seaplanes cannot any longer use the South Shore route, because they were using that as well. And all of a sudden, it's just, the North Shore route Same thing, either bank over Wading River or bank closer to John. And here they come through Laurel and Mattituck again, and then they come into East Hampton Airport. And the airport manager told me that's because we line up with runway 10. Well, that's fine, but runway 10 is also available from the South Shore route. You can come in, and everyone needs to understand it. Every aircraft needs to also have to understand, the pilots have to understand and review the wind, the weather, the humidity, all of those things in order to fly a safe aircraft. And John and I both understand that no matter what, at the end of the day, pilot has to fly safely. Okay, very important. But with that said, there are other options. There can be changes made, and it has to be an effort on behalf of East Hampton Town as well. We need the help of local officials, and we need the help of our federal and state officials as well to ensure that the traffic isn't bombarded over one particular community. East Hampton needs to absorb more. I will also note that the Sound Aircraft has cut back on their services at East Hampton Town. So that's basically the company that does the fueling and servicing of a lot of these aircraft. They have cut back on their services. So now what happens is there's less air traffic later on in the evenings. So that has helped put some relief for some residents. But again, it's going to take a village to get this to be worked out. But noise complaints are very, very important to be submitted. The most amount of information you can provide, the better it is for everyone, really, because the details are important for the FAA to know and understand who the players are. You know, yeah, because there are some that are doing okay. But on behalf of the town of Southold, what I will also say is, no one in Orient wants that noise either. If you've never been to Orient, take a drive. Go out to the park. It's peaceful. It's beautiful. We have eagles out there. And then you hear, what doesn't go with that picture? It doesn't go. And second of all, if it's a twin-engine Sikorsky should be out over the ocean. Okay? Don't bring it to the peaceful North Fork and have us deal with that. No, keep it on the South Shore route. One other item that I also want to mention, and I mentioned it at the very public meeting that was held here at Riverhead Town a few years ago. I mentioned the fact that not all of the helicopters have crash-resistant fuel tanks. So for those folks, let me kind of put that together for you. Remember the Ford Pinto? And how they're no longer making the Ford Pinto or the Chevy Vega? Remember that? Why? That's because their fuel tank wasn't. So would you buy one now? No, but the FAA has never corrected that. So why would it be okay to transition over our farms, over our homes, over our schools, over our churches? Why? When that is not that aircraft is not built to the best of its ability. Yes, it's a twin engine, but then put it out over the Atlantic Ocean, okay? But again, we're all here to kind of learn, to talk, and see what other ideas we can have. And thank you very much for sending that letter. And I will follow up also with our town supervisor, Al Krupski, and the town board to see if they can, get together with presenting a letter as well.
I'll provide you copies of this too.
Thank you very much. I'd appreciate that.
I know that Councilwoman Merrifield has been working a lot with Congressman Lota's office, and I think we do have one of them listening in too. He has a representative, so we know they're present. But if you want to just talk about, the positive side of things is that we do have three advocators for us, and so they understand it. And again, it's that key component of extending the FAA route for the next 4 years, and then really pushing enforcement. But if you talk a little bit about who you spoke with.
Yes, I was in contact with Congressman, first of all, Denise Merrifield, Riverhead Town Council. Hello, everybody. I, too, am a Wading River resident, 29 years, and I've been dealing with the noise, the helicopters flying over my backyard, to the point where if I'm on a phone in my backyard, I have to stop the conversation because you can't even hear yourself think. So I'm very familiar with it, and I am familiar with the fact that there's been a very recent uptick, to the point that they're much lower. That's the thing I noticed the most. They're very low recently. But aside from my own personal experience with this, I want to let everyone know that I've been in contact with a number of individuals. First, Senator, I'm sorry, I'm speaking ahead of myself, maybe someday, but Congressman Lilota, I spoke with his office, and Brian Vance got me in contact with an individual by the name of Nicole Staples from his office, who is listening in on Zoom to this call. They're very interested and very concerned with what's happening, as well as the two senators that Councilman Rothwell has mentioned. But more importantly, I think there's something that I want to address. And Mr. Cullen, thank you for all your efforts, and ma'am, thank you for all your efforts, because I have been able to benefit from what you've done in the past. The one thing that I'm noticing is everybody is talking about East Hampton Airport, but there's Gabreski Airport, and they're flying to Gabreski Airport.
They are.
And they're allowed to come right across Wading River to get to Gabreski. And I was on the phone today with Josh Smith over there at Gabreski Airport, and he told me that in the last year they had 7,000 noise complaints. 7,000. Because that's what's coming into Gabreski. And that, to me, is more of a problem than what we're dealing with the East Hampton Airport in Wading River. The problem is we've got the planes going to Gabreski, and that is right by us. So they're following that North Shore route, and they're allowed to come in right across through Wading River to get to Gabreski. That, to me, is the problem. So one of the things I want to mention to everybody is with the legislation and back in 2018, when the FAA had this route and it was extended through 2026, one of the comments they made was that the Eastern Regional Air Helicopter Council represented a large majority of commercial helicopter operators. Before considering any modifications to the route, the FAA wanted to consider what was happening with East Hampton Airport, because at that time they thought it was going to close. But now, in 2026, we know it's not. So I think it may be time to talk to them about a modification of this route, because all of their prior indications of how the route was going to go was based upon that belief that that airport was going to shut. So I want them to consider being a little bit more generous with where they want people to cut across to go to Gabreski, and not just make it Wading River, because 7,000 complaints just last year alone, and Mrs. Berry, who was quoted in the Riverhead Local, said I believe it was over 500 just this year alone so far. And that, what? Right, so that's a lot, and that's just, to me, just way too much. The other part of this is I did also speak with Josh Russo, I think, I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, from the Eastern Regional Helicopter Council, and he was very helpful in
I'm sorry, who was that?
Josh Russo from the Eastern Regional Helicopter Council, and he's also on the Vertical Aviation International, and he was very helpful. I have an email address for him and a phone number as well. And he wants us to give us these complaints. While they can't make the FAA do something, they do have a lot of influence with the FAA.
Absolutely.
So, and just also so that everybody understands, neither Josh Smith over in Gabreski or Josh Rousseau over with Vertical Aviation or Eastern Regional Helicopter Council, their job is not necessarily to fix this, but they can receive the FAA complaints, and they can take that information and data and try to compile something and do something with it. Just one more note. Josh Smith from Gabreski told me, please do contact them by either phone or email. He says that there is a group called Air Noise, but they just auto-populate the data. He said, if you call us, you'll have a personal conversation with us, and we'll take the complaint. This is over at Gabreski Airport. But I just want everybody to understand that both of these groups can't do anything to the FAA. They really can't make them find the helicopter pilots, but what they can do is try to influence the FAA to change and modify the routes. And that's what I'm mostly concerned with, is that I'm not that concerned about the Hampton traffic. I'm concerned of everybody going to Gabreski, because there's a lot that take that route and then go out to the Hamptons further from there. So I'm sorry, but those are the points I just wanted to bring up with everybody.
It is Gabreski, and there's also a little helipad out in Shinnecock Inlet called this Meadow Lane Port, and it's just a slab of cement, no facilities whatsoever, but they're also going there.
I'd like them to take the southern route, because going from the southern shore to Gabreski is a whole lot closer to land.
Absolutely.
Than crossing three-quarters of the way across the island from Wading River to get to Gabreski.
I talked to Josh Smith over at Gabreski about 2 weeks ago. There was a meeting at the Gabreski board. I'm on the board. Teresa's on the board. And I talked to him and it said, you got to open up the South Shore route a little more often. The helicopters are going into Gabreski. They turn around, they come right back over Wading River. I said, you need to share the pain over your own residents. They're, again, almost protecting the people of West Hampton, because they can leave West Hampton and go from there. You're really going over a lot of trees and woods to get to the Pine Barrens, exactly, and then going over Calverton Airport there, the old runways there that are closed, and then they're going to go over Wading River where the housing is. And I said the people in Wading River are getting hammered, and it'd be very helpful if you could help. And I said, just tell the tower, control tower, let's just start sending them out and see what happens. There's plenty of room. They do leave once in a blue moon. If you watch the ADSB, they do leave. They head out to the Sunrise Highway. They bang a left and heading west, and then they'll curve and make another left turn and go through Remsenburg, where one of the canals comes up. And then they'll go out over through Marichi's Inlet once in a while, but it's not enough. There needs to be more. Josh is aware of it. Teresa mentioned East Hampton Airport. I've been in touch with the East Hampton Airport Director, Jim Barndage, and I saw him about 3 months ago. I went to a meeting out in East Hampton Town Board meeting. I said, listen, the people in Wading River, this needs to stop. It needs to stop, and you need to help us. And what happened before that, about 4 years ago, when they started switching the routes, and Teresa mentioned that there was a pretty bad comment made by Eastern Region Helicopter Council dealing with the Calverton Cemetery. And I went right after the airport director that afternoon and said, you got to be kidding me on that comment. And he said, I've already taken care of it. Wading River, well, that's closed. That will not happen. Well, that probably didn't happen for maybe a year, but then all of a sudden, one bad apple went through and his friend saw it and said, if you can do it, I can do it. And now more and more people are doing it. So I've told him before, but now his response to me now is that I can only control 5 miles from my airport. That's all I can do. Whatever happens after 5 miles, the pilots can do whatever they want. And I said, listen, you told me, I have the email at home right now saying that it's stopped, it's not going to happen anymore. So I'll be reaching out. I've reached out to him before, I'll reach out to him again this week.
And if I could add just to your comment, no disrespect of what you're saying with regards to Gabreski. Yes, there is a more influx into Gabreski, and the reason being, what's happening is some of the jets are too big to land at East Hampton. So they will land at Gabreski. The helicopter will then transport them to East Hampton to bring them back, to bring it back. But I have evidence right here. I have millions of snapshots. That's the flight path.
She does.
I have millions. You see that? That's what they're
I
doing.
know
And
that.
I'm happy to share this, but this is exactly what's happening, and that's what I just explained to you.
This
How
is the route that they're taking
they
now from East
now go along Sunrise, and that's a majority of these flights that these folks are experiencing are going to East Hampton. I don't unfortunately have all the data with me, but here is the East Hampton Star and helicopter drive noise complaints. And I'm happy to share this with you, but here's actually there is some information here that if you want to share that, but you're happy. It's basically an article from the news, East Hampton Star. And it was based on the most recent meeting that East Hampton Airport had, sharing the noise complaint data for East Hampton Airport. And the majority of the complaints is helicopters. Again, and that's all, if you just Google the East Hampton Star newspaper, you'll be able to pull that information up. Yep, okay, thank you.
Just so we, Sid, does anything you would like to add to it? Sid is also obviously a member here, but also Wading River Civic Association, so we know we're going to get a report back to the Civic Association, so thank you for being here. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to make clear, I'm not here to dump this problem on a neighboring community, okay? John and Teresa way out in Mattituck, okay? And I grew up in Mattituck, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place to grow up, and it still is a beautiful place. However, if you look at what the FAA did 4 years ago, by extending the 2022, rather the 2018 agreement, it was very, very frustrating. And thanks to people like Teresa and John, and I'll even give some credit to, which I don't often do, to then Congressman Selden and his aide, whatever his name is back there. Okay. But I was somewhat hopeful because I knew in 2022 the plan was a better plan. It was at least hopeful. It was an attempt to be fair to all involved in it. The way of heaven is fairness to all, more or less. And but what's happened since then is things have started to slip. All right, they have started to slip, and that's why we are here. I was very hopeful. An all-water route, mile offshore, made a lot of sense. Another thing that made a lot of sense is some of the meetings that John and I and a few others went to with Teresa with the Helicopter Association, their Fly Neighborly program. At first, I thought, fly neighborly, that's just a slogan, right? But meeting with some of the people who, in the aviation community, some of them are very, very serious about it. It was the right thing to do, and it made sense over the long run, okay? What's ever happened since then, I don't know, okay? But there's just got to be a better way. And so I haven't given up on this whole thing. And the idea of sending in complaints, I found in my desk, my wife refers to as junkorama. I found a file from 2016 with 70 complaints from just 3 months of the summer back then. And I'm still hopeful. And with the support of people like this and people like you, all right, and thanks for coming to this meeting. I'm convinced that we can turn the tide, and it'll be a system that is in the best interests of all of us.
So any other comments we'll do is just to keep the meeting moving along. For any other elected officials want to speak on a few things. And then it's not a formal town board meeting, this is a committee, and then we'll give a chance for anybody who wants to shout out some questions or concerns or come up, and join us. But
I have something that I would like to say. Hello, I'm Councilwoman Joanne Waskey. I'm a resident of Jamesport, and I thank this group for all that you did for our helicopter problems in the past. This is a great group, and they get things done. And thank you, Councilman Rothwell, for being the liaison to this. I'm thankful to Councilwoman Merrifield for bringing up Gabreski Airport, because my home in eastern Jamesport is the direct flight path for the jets, not planes, jets. And we have a representative here from Jamesport, Greater Jamesport Civic, and I'm sure that probably that conversation comes up every now and then at a civic meeting. It is a problem, and I have seen a huge uptick in the past 2 years. They are just coming and going and coming and going. And as Councilwoman Merrifield said, it is noisy. If you're outside on your phone, you know, you don't realize how close West Hampton actually is to Riverhead. You know, the runway is right there, going right out over the Pine Barrens, and here we are in Jamesport. So I think that this is an issue that is Wading River, Riverhead, Jamesport, all of us are affected by this. So I appreciate all the efforts that you all are doing and will continue to do, and I'm thankful to all the residents that have come out, and here we are uniting and saying we need to get something completed here for our benefit, for our quality of life, because this is a quality of life issue. So thank you very much for being here today.
We're going to ask everybody for this committee to reconvene next month. By then, we know that our letters will be accepted and our agreement, we should see that that's been renewed, and then we'll continue on in terms of enforcement. Any other elected officials?
Yeah, I would love to just say thank you again. I did ask our town clerk to be here to take notes so that we can get everybody's comments recorded, and then I will be reaching out to the East End supervisors and mayors, and collectively last time they put together a letter, and so I think, as Councilwoman Waski and Merrifield and everyone has said here, you know, the unification of our island is so important, and so there's so much more thrust of giving that to, you know, our senators, our congressmen, everyone across the board. So I did reach out to Schumer's office today again as an effort as well to make sure they're in the loop, and so making sure that everyone is putting pressure where it needs to be. So thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'm good. I think it's great. I think you have a great committee here, and I know I experienced it years ago living in Aquabog. The picture frames would go like that on my wall. And, you know, we will, with this group here, make every effort to put a lot of pressure where pressure needs to be put so this stops happening. And that, I think, we can all promise you that.
Do we have questions or anybody want any comments? So, Claudette, if you don't, if you think you can talk loud, otherwise come up a little bit closer.
Microphone recorded, so that way we can get it so people at home can hear.
There's no microphone there.
It's
The boss in the box has spoken.
no, it's picked up. It's in the room, but that way they get you.
Okay, I'll talk louder.
We're always listening to you.
Thank you for doing this. All the residents really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Is there a way to push, not only to renew the law, but to make it mandatory? They made it voluntary. Lots of pilots followed it, but not everybody followed it. And the altitude as well, they're not following that either. So the few always ruin it for the many, but is that justification, or can we use that as leverage to make it mandatory, not voluntary, to stay offshore at 2,500 feet and go all the way to Orient Point?
I can try to answer that for you. I can try. Many years ago, it was stated by the FAA that not all the aircraft are equipped with flotation devices. So that's why they came up with the concept of it being 1 mile. But a few years ago, again with the meeting that we had down by the Iron Pier Beach with representatives from Schumer's office, Gillibrand's office, and then Congressman Zeldin's office, we hit a few of the hot spots, and we went to Laurel so we could present the aircraft there. Iron Pier was just beyond hammered. And so going back, simply stating is that not all the pilots have flotation devices. So I was told that based on that, they have to fly near the water. So my argument was, when we stood at the end of Laurel Lane, I said, well, look at Robbins Island. Is that 1 mile off? No. So then that's how we ended up, kind of attacking that, because then we've got the FAA right.
Well, it doesn't make sense because they're
Right.
flying over land.
Yeah.
A flotation device isn't going to help you there either.
Well, no, the point would be is that is the crew transitioning over, for example, like from Laurel Lane to get to Robbins Island, that's what, 5 miles or so? So if there is a situation, emergency situation, the helicopter would not be able to float. They don't have the flotation devices to do so.
But there are more than just helicopters. I have seaplanes, I have
Yes.
jumbo jets.
Yes.
I'm in the flight path for Kennedy.
Yes, but I'm just
So
trying to explain
that's
what
much
the
higher.
FAA was trying
Right,
to
but-
explain as that, and our argument was, John and I argued, buy vests,
Right.
put them on for everybody at $75, put it on
The real reason
you know.
you're not doing it is money, because
Yes.
time is money, and
Yes.
the fuel costs are enormous, getting higher all the time, and they're taking the
Save
shortest possible route. That's
save
the
time.
reason.
So Claudette, I spoke to Michael Sheed from Senator Gillibrand's office, and that's what he said, that the senator was going to be, was committed to creating like an enforcement plan, that it's not just a recommendation, but an enforcement plan, and that they would be working on that for the future.
That's great, thank you.
Okay.
It's all about safety first.
Safety first.
Safety first, so if they see a puff cloud up there, they might just say, that's my safety. I'm
Right.
getting out of the way, I'm coming down to 2,000 feet or 1,500
Never
feet.
gonna get it 100%, but thank you.
I've written the FAA many letters. I've never gotten a response.
Well, I did get a response. I did.
Impressive.
They said that's the flight path, too bad.
Thank you, Claudette.
Anybody else, questions, concerns? You want to come on up, or if you don't mind, because then it is recorded, so they can hear you.
Joan Sear, Greater Jamesport Civic Association.
John, they're asking if you come to the podium so everybody at home can see you, so.
Yeah, we were talking, but I guess it would.
Hi, Joan Sear with the Greater Jamesport Civic Association. I've tried twice in the last month to reach FAA Northeast Regional Administrator Marie Kennington Gardner or Deputy Administrator Stephen Jones. I've left 2 messages. I did have one discussion with Brian Coney, who was the previous contact back in 2022 when the rulemaking was to be extended. And he said, I'll look into it. He said he's not the contact, but he'd look into it. He didn't hear back from him. I called him again, no response. I wondered if anybody from the town has reached out to the FAA directly, because at this point, they haven't even issued it as a rulemaking, and they need, my understanding and procedure is they need to post it as a rulemaking, and then leave it open for public comment, and the 29th is gonna be here really soon, in 12 days or something, and I'm concerned if anybody's had any luck reaching the FAA, because we need to get it posted as a rulemaking before anything can happen, is my understanding. John, you're looking at me, do
I
you
have
know?
not made, like I said, I've reached out to the FAA multiple times with 0 response.
I think we thought the best way would be to go through our federal representatives and then having them give direction to the FAA of what they expect.
Maybe somebody from the town board, with a little bit more
Authority.
credentials than the Civic Association has, can try reaching out to the FAA. The number 718-553-3000. And it's Marie Kennington Gardner, and she's based in Jamaica at JFK.
You can email her, though, if she does not respond.
There was no email contact at all that I
have
could
that.
find. Would you give it to me? That'd be
I
great.
absolutely can share that with
That'd
you.
be terrific. Thank you, Teresa.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Share it with everybody. We'll all write her.
Yep. And we do have somebody online as well, but we'll wait 1 moment.
I was going to actually state that fact also, that we can't really do anything unless the FAA extends it. So, and the FAA is completely mum on this. I did find something really interesting online today. The Department of Transportation actually has a permanent rule proposal out for this route, this North Shore helicopter route to be enforced and to make it permanent. However, the last time that they published anything about it was spring of 2023. So I don't know if that's still, it seems still to be open, but I don't know if there's an ability to make any comments to the Department of Transportation. I can give you it's an RIN number.
Sure.
Okay. RIN 2120-AK39, and it's called Permanent Requirement for Helicopters to Use the North Shore New York North Shore helicopter route.
Sid is, just so we know that Sid is on the ball and he's moving because he's got it right here in front of him. No, so that's great. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing. We do have one person online and then we'll come to you. Chip, you want to do online?
Take it.
That's true. Officially got it now. Okay. Thanks.
I think this was actually 2024.
Plan every single day, and then let the
There we go.
FAA know that they're gonna fly their helicopters to that works.
I missed that first part too. I got 2120, which Sid has this number.
Bill Drower, can you hear us?
Yes, I have you now. I've heard the meeting. Thank you for letting me join in from the house. Unfortunately, due to a minor injury, I cannot make the meeting today. I was hoping to join it. Councilman, Sid, you guys, gentlemen, thank you for starting this. I've been online for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years with this because as a resident of Wading River for, now what, 50 years or so, the noise has increased tremendously. One thing I did want to point out is that not only do they go to Gabreski, they go to the Shinnecock Inlet and in East Hampton, but also they're coming out of Bridgeport and flying directly to to Gabreski. That's one spot, I guess, where Flex Jets stage their helicopters. The other one is there a way we can also complain to the heliport in the city because they're coming out of the West 30th Street heliport, flying up the river, cutting across the Bronx, and then out on the North Shore, or they go south down across the South Shore route. So there's a way we can address it through the heliport also in New York City is where they're leaving from to head out here.
Good to know. We'll make notes. Anything else, Phil?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you
Ken.
for your past volunteer service. Phil was the chief of the Wading River Fire Department, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you,
On Phil's
Ken.
note,
Thanks
I
for
think,
serving.
did you mention Eastport, Phil?
No, it wasn't Eastport. They're coming out of the East River heliport.
Oh, okay.
Right,
No
the
worries.
30th Street one, right? So
Yes.
that's where they come out of and they head here.
Thank you.
That one is the 30th
Right, and the other one is the Bridgeport heliport, the Bridgeport Airport, right? That's where I think FlexJet stages the helicopters.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you very much, Phil.
Thank you.
Somebody else want to come up? Sure, come on up.
Hello. Thank you for conducting this meeting. My name's Marie Dominici, and I live in a condo community off of Middle Road. And there are 3 condo communities that are adjacent to one another. Back in 2022, we had, let's just say when you come out of my gate, you're looking at the Peconic Bay Medical Center right there. Back in 2022, we were having terrible airplanes, well, more so helicopters. What they used to do before they would land on Peconic Bay Medical Center's roof, they would circle the community, and God forbid they fall down. Where do they fall? In your living room. So I made an appointment to meet with the head of security at Peconic Bay Medical Center, and he was very, willing to sit down and have a conversation with me, and we talked about, if the airplanes are coming from west to east, why don't they follow the Long Island Expressway route and then go down the main road, Route 58, and then just land on Peconic Bay's roof? And shortly thereafter, and I'm not a rocket scientist, so it wasn't like, boo-boo me, but he worked with his committee and they changed it, and it was great. But now, I don't know what's changed. All the helicopters are coming around again, day and night, day and night, day and night. Listen, that Peconic Bay Medical Center does a wonderful job, so I'm not saying, they have to change. What has to change is what from what, it went from good to bad again. So if they could kind of follow the protocol that the head of security at Peconic Bay Medical Center made happen in a positive way, why don't they just try to keep that? And again, I'm not a pilot and I'm not a rocket scientist, but I just think it used to work and now it's not working. And I guess too, a lot has to do with new pilots and things of that nature. So I think it would be indicative of the connection between Peconic Bay Medical and the helicopters to communicate that in some way, shape, or form. So I just wanted to bring that up. Many years ago when I lived in Mattatuck, same situation. What happened was Chuck Schumer had changed the routing for the planes that used to follow the Long Island Sound, and then they would get to a certain point, and then they would cross over to the airport in Hampton Bays. So that did work, but when he took away the guidelines, it was like, now they're flying over your house. And listen, I was raised in Queens. I lived right outside of Kennedy Airport. Growing up, we ingested enough CO2 to, stay short. But at the end of the day, where was I going with this? Oh, so, one day in my house in Queens, we were on the landing pattern there, and a plane came down, and he was going to land, and his landing gear hit the roof of my house. Okay, so talk about having company just drop in on you like that. But anyway, so I'm not opposed to it. I've lived the airport. From my bedroom window, I could see the runways, and I could see, so I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying if there's a better way to do it, and it was working for a while, and now it's not working again. So if we could kind of go back.
Reach out to Amy Loeb in Peconic Bay Medical Center. There's been a lot of advancements and expansions specifically around the emergency area, which is right by the helipad that's there. Sometimes I understand they're waiting for a medical crew to prep and be ready to receive the patient down below, and sometimes it's a kind of notification like we're here. But we can talk to her about that, and just to see that if they are in a holding pattern, maybe perhaps it could be higher, or just better. But sometimes they're getting their team ready on the ground
I understand
to
that.
remove the patient, or the opposite way. Many times you may have a trauma patient from Peconic Bay Medical Center being transported out of the center going to a major trauma center.
No, I agree. In my backyard, it's a lake, hence the name of my street, Lake View, okay? And in recent times, the helicopters would come over, and I could see the color shirt that the pilot was wearing. That should never happen, really, that should never happen. But again, this Peconic Bay Medical is a great facility. I'm not, saying they need to move away or anything like that, but what used to work stopped working. So if you could make that happen.
We'll check in with them, okay?
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for doing this.
You're very welcome. Anybody else? Come on up. The committee's had the last year off, so we've got all night, so don't worry.
Wading River. I just have a couple questions. What is the minimum altitude they're required, or is it a suggestion or requirement, or what?
First of all, it's safety. The minimum is actually 500 feet. They're asked to fly above 25 or better. We like them at 3,500, especially for the double engines. But and a lot of them do fly at 3,500 but they're usually staying out over the water. But the legal minimum for a helicopter is 500 feet.
What about time of day? Anything on restraints as far as time of day a helicopter can fly?
No.
No, unfortunately.
I didn't go over 6:20 this morning over our house.
I can tell you at East Hampton Airport, they have a opening at 7 a.m. and they don't want anybody there before 7 a.m. They do come in earlier. Those pilots, I believe, are talked to by the airport director saying you came in 15 minutes early. We don't want that. Please don't do that again. That's about it. And the same with Gabretsky. They have the same thing. And I know at Gabretsky, Josh Smith sends a letter to anyone that comes in before 7 a.m. And also they have, Gabretsky's a big airport there. And anybody that comes in after 11 p.m., he sends a letter to the owner of that plane and to the pilots. And he's Josh over Grabretzky's very good. East Hampton, I can't tell you how good they are. I just don't know, but I know Josh is very good there.
I don't know if you remember, a couple of years ago, Blade had a lot of ads on TV, for their
Yes, they
service.
did.
So I got their number. I called them. I said, no, I don't want your service. I want to file a complaint, So
Good for you.
said, we just contract out the helicopters. We're not responsible for the flying them, So, they're trying to pass the responsibility to somebody else.
They're doing very well, and what happens with the seaplanes, what you may not know is that there are about 5 seaplanes that shoot down here from Florida for 4 months. Kind of like a ski resort. You have 4 months to make your money and go back. And they come here, and they're kind of the worst offenders. And it's known throughout the East Hampton airport, people inside, the director and everybody that works there, the FBO that works there, that services them for gas, they know that there are more complaints coming about this Tropic Airway seaplanes. And they make their money, and then all of a sudden they disappear for the winter. And you always say, I hope they don't come back. And I've even asked Jim Brundage, the airport director, I've told him, I go, why do you let these guys come in? He goes, I have to let them come in. But I go, well, they're the worst offenders. They should be talked to before set the rules straight right off the bat before they start bombarding the neighborhoods. Fly neighborly. It's not happening.
Did the committee kind of go dormant for a while?
We did.
Okay.
And that's because where I live, I got crushed. And I started the committee somewhat with Teresa's help. And all of a sudden, things got changed around. So I wasn't getting hammered, and the people on the committee in the beginning were all underneath the flight path.
Right.
So to keep this committee going, I mean, it would be great if we get a volunteer or 2 from Wading River. I know Sid's here with us, but I mean, more people from the area that are getting hammered makes it a lot better. Now, we're lucky enough that we have 3 council members here that live in the Wading River area, and that shows a lot of authority. Where I live, I had 0. But we were able to still have a major meeting here at the old town hall, and that really set the tone. It was seating room only. I mean, they were in the hallways, and everybody gave the word to the guy up there, and eventually things changed. They didn't change a week later, they didn't change a month later, but they did change.
Okay, what I would ask, if you can compile some type of list of contacts, for the average, citizen that we can file a complaint?
If you go on our website, the complaint form is there. In addition, I upgraded everything on the website. It has all your representatives right on there. It has your federal representatives, town representatives, FAA. Everything is listed right in there. You can print it right out. So it's right on the town website.
What do we look for on the website?
Jim, if you see our town clerk, he runs our website, so he should be able to help us navigate that after the meeting, Chip is back there, these guys?
It used to be up on the town board, Channel 22 every once in a while. I haven't seen it there in a while.
It's easy just to do the search, just do helicopter, and it'll take you right to it.
Let me just say,
Navigating through a whole bunch of pages.
let me just say, people have been putting in complaints for years at that airport, and people stopped putting in complaints because nothing changed. So what happens is, the form that you would fill out, it would be sent to them online, but you're not going to see much change. And all of a sudden, people get tired of filling out that form because it takes a couple of seconds. Now, I happen to have a website called Air Noise IO, and I push a button. And when I push that button, a complaint goes right to the airport, East Hampton Airport. It tells you the altitude of the plane, tells you the speed of the plane, and it tells you the tail number of the plane.
Is that available through an app or anything like that?
It's available through an app. It might be about $4 or $5. I think it's $5 a month, and you cancel it after 4 months after the traffic gets slow, and then you restart it when the traffic picks up.
Mr. Conlon, I've just followed that up with, when I spoke with Josh Smith over at Gabreski, he said that app is great. He said, but follow that up with an email to them or a phone call, because that's just data.
Right.
What they get from the app. you call up and you tell them your personal experience, you'll get somebody on the other with a personal response to you.
Josh Smith will pick up the phone.
Yes.
East Hampton, never.
On the town website, just go to committees and scroll down, you'll see the helicopter, you click on it, and everything is right there for you.
I can give you the number for the Gobreski if you want that. Want that?
You got something right with it?
Okay. 852-8095, that's Gobreski Airport.
Okay.
It's a phone tree, you hit that, and then you want complaints, and you can go to that.
Okay, my wife will write it down. Okay, thank you.
Also, just so you know, if you go to the Gobreski Airport website and you scroll all the way to the very bottom, there is at the very bottom there, it says, submit a noise complaint. And they ask you for your name, your address, the time, and whether it's a jet, helicopter, banner. So you have, in other words, you have all the options to check off and provide your name, of course, your phone number, and you will not get a receipt back confirming that you submitted it, but they give you a comment area in there also to state exactly what you experienced. So if you don't, if you're not uncomfortable, some people are uncomfortable making a phone call, or it's 10 o'clock at night, you wrote it down, and just go ahead and submit it via the document, and Josh does receive it. He has a wonderful team, I'll tell you that. He has a wonderful team over there, and very responsive, very respectful, but also understand that Suffolk County Airport is a 24-hour airport, just as the same as East Hampton. With the Southampton heliport, that is limited from dawn to dusk. They do not have any lighting around the heliport there in Southampton, but they are cutting through lately through Wading River to go to an oceanfront heliport yet again and go back. And I have fought tooth and nail to try to get that. I contacted so many federal and state officials to express my concern about that, because that is unnecessary. You come out of New York City, you come to an oceanfront heliport, you exit right back out the heliport. It's that simple. There's no reason to transverse over acreage and farms and homes and churches and people's property. If that can even be alleviated, it would be a win-win for everybody. So.
Any other questions? Come on up, sure.
Just looking at the updated form, thank you very much for updating that. I see that the first.
You could just come up to the podium there. There's a microphone in the sky that hears. There you go.
Thank you for updating the form. I see that the link is to East Hampton. Can you also add a link for Gobreski?
Yes, there is. How? I don't know.
We can add it to the website.
Right.
And could you add
the town website.
the app that John mentioned also?
The air noise. Mine is directly to East Hampton. I have my most pain from
Yeah, so
that.
that's one other thing I want to caution everybody, that you're in a transition area, just like with where I live. I have to be very careful when I file my complaints, because I'm literally on the turn. An aircraft can go to Montauk, it can go to East Hampton, or I get Gobreski too. I file plenty of complaints to Gobreski because I line up to the runway into Gobreski Airport. So, please don't go, tap happy that if you do get the app, you are going to have to take some time to analyze and you will eventually know which characters they are. The ones that are like Zip Aviation, they have gotten better over the years. That at one point they got better, but once you get used to who's doing what, you'll be able to kind of feel safer with. But again, if you want to have accurate data and you want to provide accurate information so that no one disputes you, you need to be as accurate as possible as well. So, and I mean to the public, you need to have as much accurate information as possible.
Is it possible also to add the legislators' contact information?
It is on the website.
He's on here?
Yes. I think you go to a second page. I can help you afterwards, but we upgraded everything, yes.
Okay, I don't see it. That's fine, thank you.
No worries. If not, I'll but it's a project we worked on, thanks to you pointing it out for us, and it is updated, so thanks. Anybody else have questions or concerns? Don't be shy. We're a very friendly group up here. We're all in this together.
So my name is Misty O'Shea Piontek. I live in Wading River, and just to add something very, Misty O'Shea Piontek. Is anybody getting the Avello flights in Wading River? I'm like right in the flight path to New Haven.
A friend of mine is, yeah.
Yeah, those are bad. And just as the helicopter's in for the night, that starts.
The Avello.
So
Avello.
that's all that I wanted to bring in. Food for
Yeah.
thought. So.
That's something maybe that can be brought up to the FAA. I would seriously consider suggesting that.
Anybody else have any comments or anything to share? So just a point of, Chip, anybody online? Good. So, just a point of logistics before we conclude. You've all been officially drafted back into the helicopter committee. And so we will be putting forth the resolution for your great work to commend you to continue on the task force. So I thank you all. And everybody public-wise, thank you all very much for attending. We appreciate all your concerns and for joining us here today. We will follow up next month, so we'll give you a little update on how we're doing with the renewal of the plan as well. All right?
I'd like to thank the public for coming out also. This is, we're working for you in Wading River. We're here for you. We're going to try our best for you. And I'd like to thank the board for being here. I didn't expect to see the whole board here, but thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Yep, thank you.
That's a tough one. Tell me.